At ease, brothers. At ease to my sisters as well. I've been saying it for a few days. I've been saying it for a few weeks. The time is now. The time is now, brothers. And the thing is, like I've said this before. I remember when in 2019, toward the fall of 2019, I said, bro, me and my brothers, we were making videos. Go back and check the archives. 2019, the fall. I said, man, something is balling, bro. Like the world is doing something. Everybody was feeling a number of people were feeling. I said, the world is doing something. Come December 2019, come January 2020, February 2020, the world shifted. Things that people couldn't even imagine were taking place. Fast forward to 2021. I said, man, it feels like, it just feels like people are hungry for something different now. Like we've gone through some turmoil, and now a lot of people are saying, you know what, man, the knowledge, the faith that I thought I had, the knowledge that I was standing on, like it really wasn't what I thought it was to be. Like there has to be more out there. And the thing is, right now, that third phase is happening. The awakening. This is the time, brothers. This is the time, sisters, man, where you're supposed to take all of this knowledge, all these books you've been reading over the last year and a half, all these nuggets you've pulled from church over the last 20, 30 years, all the information and data you pull from Juma, you pull from Mass, you pull from all your religious services. Now is the time to stand on it, brothers. It's happening. And the brother I want to bring on tonight, man, this is a brother, I'll be honest, I haven't known this brother long at all. So as this brother gives his story, as this brother shares his knowledge, a lot of what he says will be the first time I've heard it myself. But I can tell you the first time I met this brother, man, this brother joined the Power Circle just a few months ago. And I could tell from the very first time he opened his mouth, the very first few phrases he spit, man, my eyes were open and a portion of my heart were opened up. Because this brother speaks from that place. And I remember I sit back and listen to him, man, and I just observed him, man. And as soon as we got off the Power Circle call, I picked my phone up and I called this brother. I said, bro, like, who are you, bro? And I can tell you what I told this brother at some point in time. I said, you know what? I'm gonna tell you this, man. I said, I can tell that me and you, like we knew each other in a different life. Like this is our first time meeting, brother, but this is not my first time crossing your path in this realm, brother. You know, and every once in a while, me and this brother get on the phone for a few minutes. We might text for a few minutes and just chop knowledge. But the other day, man, we started going in. I said, hold up, brother. I said, because you getting ready to go to that place, man. I said, let's hold up, brother. Let's go live. Let's share this information with our brothers and our sisters. So, brothers, I want y'all to give me a warm at ease for a brother that served 26 years in the Marine Corps, for a brother that's a father, and for a brother that's a pillar in the Power Circle community. Brother, I want y'all to give it up to Brother Qonquer. Brother Qonquer, good to see you, brother, and thanks for joining me today, man.
Hey, good to see you too, brother. How you doing?
Yeah, life is good, man. Life is good, man. Like I was telling people, man, I could tell from when I passed first cross, man, that you're one of those rare brothers that you know, when I crossed their path, man, I know that we had crossed paths before, man. You know, even in the Power Circle, man, even when we're talking on the phone, even when we're texting, you're always coming from that place. Like you're coming from that sanctum sanctorum, brothers. And I really just wanted to have you on, and thanks for coming, man, to share with our brothers and sisters, man, like your life story, your mission, your journey, man. So first thing I want to ask you, bro, is what gave you your vision, or pretty much just tell me like what was life like? Fill us in before I met you in the Power Circle, brother.
I've always had, I come from a very, very spiritual family. And I've always had a spiritual background. I've always known the Bible almost tooth and nail, from a spiritual perspective. And the knowledge is one thing, but to have the experience of it is another. And so, we were all raised, in these churches or specific buildings. And we were always told, don't ever question anything, don't ask. And that was whipped into all of our minds for a long time. And when you get to the point where you've been beat so much to not ask, you don't understand what that means. But we have three things that we go by in the Bible that says ask, seek, and knock. Well, on one hand, somebody's telling us not to ask, but God is telling us to ask. And so, I had to go back to the drawing board because I was angry for a long time. I had an older lady speak to me when I was a little boy, and some events that happened when I was a kid that were all spiritual that I never forgot. And anybody that knows me, I've always shared this type of information with them, but they don't know specifically what it is, and I'll never tell them. But it's all happened. And by me walking through life just being angry, and I wasn't angry at anybody specific, I was mostly angry at myself. I was angry at me because of everything that I knew and I read and I understood and that was spoken into me. I wasn't living up to that potential. So
let me ask you this, brother. I ask like you mentioned the Bible, man, and really like your interpretation of it. Do you think that I'll say the masses? Do you think that the masses or because churches and other are teaching about the Bible? Do you think it's just being taught from the wrong perspective? Or what's your thought on
that? It's being taught based on their perspective of their understanding. And it's not to judge anybody because we all have a different walk. I decided to take that narrow path by myself. And that narrow path for me was to really study to show myself approved, to put my trust in no man and let no man deceive me. And at that point, I realized that I could no longer deceive myself. So if I wanted to experience God, I had to get out of God's way.
What was that hard shift? Like at what point, at what age, at what time frame in life, what event or what series of events or like what made you say, you know what, like this is my awareness moment. Like this is when because everybody, I grew up in the church, man. My father was a preacher, so everything that came out of that pulpit, I considered gold. But I would say at a certain age, maybe 19, 20, I started questioning a lot more. But when I got 22, 23, 24, I was questioning everything that came out of that pulpit. And before I hit 25, man, I completely separated myself from Christianity at the time, from all religion, and just sit still. And I just started observing the world from a new mind. So at what point in your life did that transition happen, man?
Honestly, that point in my life happened in multiple stages. So it wasn't one particular stage, but the ultimate event for me was understanding what God's vision was. And so a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with Graves' eye disease, a thyroid eye condition. And, aggressively, I was beginning to lose my vision and I was beginning to lose my color perception. So I had to have surgery on both of my eyes. So over a 3-year period, several times after surgery, I was really in the dark.
How'd that change your life?
Well, when your eyes are closed for a long time and you have the ability to open them, but you really can't, it's completely different. And so when my eyes came open, and it was never the same. Everything that I already read, everything that I already understood, the things that I've been writing since 2011, just came back vividly for me. It's a lot of scary moments because you got to go back and relive it. You got to go back and relive all that anger that you've had. And it wasn't really guided and directed towards anybody else. It was always a dissatisfaction with self. When you don't live up to God's potential, we all live up to our potential. But do we live up to God's potential? And God's potential has no ceiling. God's potential doesn't have a floor.
Mm-hmm.
We allow those two things to come into us. And when we do that, we'll never be satisfied with what God has for us. And so I no longer allow anybody to tell me who God is and where he is and where to find him. I know where to find him.
Mm-hmm.
All I have to do is ask. And I begin asking.
It's weird when you mentioned having your eyes closed. I was just watching it was just a 1-minute video, I believe, on Instagram the other day. And it was a guy, it was some kind of experiment. He said he put himself in a room for 6 days with no light, like no light at all. And he was explaining, he said, when your mind is seeing complete darkness, like you're going to a place. And he wasn't even coming with a spiritual message, but he was like, you go to this place, you have visions, you talk to some greater energy when you just close off. So I can only imagine, brother, being in that situation and having a revelation or having a series of revelations, man. I heard you say something the other day, man, in our last conversation before I said, hey, let's have this call. You said you put a lot of emphasis rather on letting go and letting God. What does that mean? What does that mean to the common man?
Brother, it means crossing that bridge, man, of no return. And it's a move going on right now. It has nothing to do with race, religion, your sex. It's if you feel it right now. And it's that right now moment. If you don't take it, the door is gonna close pretty soon. If you're on the bridge, you know what that feeling is like. If you've already crossed the bridge and you turn around, there's tears there because you know that there's a lot of people that's still stuck on the other side. But you're not obligated to stay there. You're not obligated to stay there. Remember, God left the 99 to go get the one. He had to leave the 99 to go get the one because the one left. Mm-hmm. But that one that left saw something. Mm-hmm. And those ones that leave are the ones that are supposed to come back and resurrect the church to some degree. Or resurrect a people to some degree. It has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with color. It has anything to do with if you truly love God.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: What do you think the primary barrier or barriers are to people getting that information, getting that true knowledge? Because like when me and you talk, when all us brothers have conversations in the power circle, brother, the majority of the things that we're saying, you couldn't dare speak in a church. You couldn't even dare speak in a group of just normal thinking brothers, man. So what do you think? What do you think the primary barrier? I mean, the primary causes are of people not really tapping into that other side or going deeper or going outside of the church walls, man.
Fear. They won't pick it up and look and read it for themselves. They refuse to do it. And you know, at some point, you cannot sit around and continue to blame ministers. You can't blame anybody because the word tells you to study to show yourself approved. And in the midst of them not doing it, they won't meet their goal in life. They won't meet God's presence while they're here in life. And most people end up having hell on earth in their minds because they can't shake tradition.
Facts.
They can't shape what they've been taught, or they can't go back to the book itself. Now I know a lot of people study a lot of different books, and I have too, but the number one book that holds a lot of weight to me is the Bible. The way that I understand it, the way that it was gifted to me, and the way that I articulate it. And I know that I got it from my grandfather. You know, a lot of people when we read the Bible, do we truly understand it? And the Bible does say that a good man leaveth an inheritance for his children's children. I'm my grandfather's child's child. And I know I've inherited a lot of his riches and his wealth. It has nothing to do with money. It has something to do with his prayers. It had a lot to do with his spirit, and it had a lot to do with his understanding of God and where to find it.
I know one thing, man. Like, and I read the Bible my whole life. Matter of fact, I still have my original Bible that my father gave me in '85. Man, I got one side of it ripped off, but I still got that same Bible, man. And it's like two Bibles exist. It's like you read the Bible growing up, and once you have understanding, you can read that exact same book, and it have a completely different different meaning, man. It's like I remember when I was in my 20s reading it, 24, 25, and it was like I was reading it for the first time. And what I understood then, man, when it comes to why I feel most of our people are, I'll say the word lost. I'll say the word lost is because, at least in the South, in this Bible Belt, man, I'll say this: there are a lot of preachers, there are a lot of ministers, bishops, whatever the name, that have certain knowledge and speak to their congregation, but the far majority of preachers are really just regurgitating what they've heard, and they're regurgitating what they heard from people that regurgitated what they heard from people that regurgitated what they heard. So even though you have a message that lacks understanding, is still being altered over generation over generation over generation. And sometimes, but like that's why really I had to separate myself from the church. I know, like, every once in a while I'll still go attend church with my mother if they're having certain events. I have a brother-in-law that's a minister down south, very, very good minister. I'll visit their church every once in a while. But and I'm glad that churches exist. Church for me, it took me out of the streets. It had me doing positive things. But for me, it's just not. It's not for me. Because it's very. Go ahead, brother.
There's an external Bible, and then there's an internal Bible. Most people leave it on the shelf. The Bible is not something that you just sit around and wait to hear for. It's something that you do. He said, "Be ye doers of the word." The only way you can do it is to read it. And so you'll take it from the external and make it into the internal. Once you make it into the internal, you have a deeper understanding. But now that's also a spiritual thing, because you can read it naturally or you can read it spiritually. The only way you're going to understand it is if you follow his instructions. And one of those instructions is you must return to the mind of a child. You have to return to the mind of a child. If you try to analyze it with today's, education, with today's thoughts, with today's mindset, the Bible will never make sense to you. And that's why when you look at a lot of the kids that are in church right now, the group that I'm talking about right now that have this understand two things. They understand that we used to be those kids, and we refuse to be our parents and grandparents. Because there's a lot of time that's lost, a lot of wealth that's lost, a lot of animosity that's created because they're being guided and directed, and it's not guided and directed in all honesty and sincerity. And so the average person, if you've been a member of a church for 30 years, you should have read the entire Bible almost 30 times. So, his word said that all his word is good. You're gonna have to read all of it, and you're gonna have to damn near understand all of it to get to a point of understanding where to find them. We sing a lot of songs that there's nobody greater than you, but the you is you. The you is you, because you're never going to be able to find God until you go through you. You're gonna have to destroy you.
I'm gonna ask you this, man. I'm glad you said that. I'm gonna ask you this: who is God, or what is God? And the reason I'm asking you that is because when I'm talking to most people, like I use that word a lot. I use the word God a lot, but I only use it around people that understand my perspective, understand where I'm coming from. Because I believe when a lot of people say God, I personally believe they're in the wrong space. So I'm asking you, like, when I ask you who is God or what is God, what is that to you?
God is most definitely an external spirit, but you as man got to run into that spirit. You have to run into that spirit, and it's a place that most people won't go. They won't go there because they will really have to look at their reflection in the mirror and be so disgusted with it that they want to destroy that person and become new. And if you want it, it's free.
Yeah.
But the cost of it, most people don't want to pay. The reward is free, but the journey is painful. And majority of people won't take that step. They're afraid of the people that they're going to lose. They're afraid of losing loved ones. They're afraid of people not speaking to them ever again. But his word is clear. Until you get to the point where you're willing to hate someone else for the love of me, you will never find me. Mm-hmm. And what that means is once you get to that place where you know where God is and you understand him, you're willing to do that. Mm-hmm. They'll have to meet you where you are because you won't come down. It's in Nehemiah 6. I'm on the wall. I won't come down. So in order to meet me, that doesn't mean that I'm not willing to help anybody or be there for them spiritually. But at this stage in the game, I'm not willing to bend all the way over to reach down and grab someone, because if they snatch you down, I know I would never be able to get back up. Mm-hmm. And so that's that lonely walk to get to God that we all need to work on. We can't be afraid. If you do it and everybody does it, then the people you love will be in the same circle.
Thanks.
But you understand that they, that they won't.
Yeah. I know, and the reason I'm like when I use that word, man, when I use the word God, I just by default, I use the word source. I don't know when I started doing, but I'll say source, but I can say God. But the reason I'm funny about saying that to some people, because some people, when they say God, in my opinion, they're talking about, they're discussing, they're worshiping like light energy. And I believe when someone says God and they say, okay, I worship this energy, this whatever you want to call it, but this energy has an opposing force. In my opinion, I say no. I say that's not God, because if God consists of everything, then this energy we're just talking about can't have an opposite force, because it consists of everything. So there must be a higher level of consciousness. There must be another level to go. And I think that's really hindered our people, man. I think that lack of understanding, because of this. And I always talk about the light and dark, like, and I always use the same example, man. But it's like when you going back to like a slavery. Mm-hmm. The only way slavery could have existed is by cramming only light energy down someone's throat, to the point where there's absolutely no darkness. And the thing is, when there's no darkness, a man has no defense mechanism. That's why you can have two men on horses overlooking hundreds picking cotton, because there's no defense. So even today, when people are talking about worshiping God, I still think our people today are still worshiping that same light energy, and thinking that the opposite of that energy is actually wrong, when actually it's a part of the all. And I know my mission, man, that's the one thing I'm trying to get people to understand. Like when I talk about the picture back there, man, it's full circle. When you're talking about the Trinity taps into everything. The Trinity taps into man, it taps into the relationship with women, it taps into a relationship with his brothers, it taps into the relationship with God, but it taps into the relationship with light and dark. It's like once people start understanding that dark has a position in life, then they'll have balance, man. Then they'll start having freedom, man. So I believe what most people are teaching to be God, and some people say that God is the Messiah. It's I think that's what is hindering a lot of our people, man. But I heard you talk about something a lot. I heard you made a post on this on Instagram. Go ahead,
real fast about God. God has many names. Mm-hmm. You can call him the source, you can call him the one, you can call him the creator, you can call him the most high, you can call him the all in all, you can call him the great I am. The difference is when you call him, does he answer? Mm. When you call on him, does he answer? And if he answers and he meets you where you are, and you're doing it from the most uttermost part of your soul, that's all that matters. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's all that matters. And what's happening is a lot of people are falling victim to the God they're told, not the God they search for.
Facts. That's a huge difference. Elaborate on that. What are your thoughts on that? What would you say the differences are between the two? First, before you answer that, brother, I'm gonna read what Brother Street Philosophy said. He said, I think God, the subconscious mind is the subconscious mind, but the conscious mind be cleared with BS for me anyway. So he said he believed God is a subconscious mind. What do you think the differences are between that God that we're taught of and that God that we seek? That's heavy, bro.
The God that we're taught, it depends on your level of growth. Some people won't go past what they've been taught. They won't study. When you study, you understand that God is asking you for something deeper. He's asking you for a deeper commitment. He's asking you for a deeper yearning for him. He really wants you to dig into what is written. He needs you to dig into what's written so you can uncover who he is, more importantly, who he is within you. And most of what has been taught, I don't know if it's still being taught. I don't follow it anymore. But most of what has been taught from what I looked at is that they're telling everybody that it's such an external spirit that the only way you get it is when you die. But that's not true. That is so far from the truth. It's in the Our Father's prayer, which is the only prayer that he gave us to get, to have. He said, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So it's very simple. How do we get away from the very simple principle? Very simple. So he promised us that place here and when we're gone. It is up to us to search for those gems and those golden nuggets while we're here.
Thanks. Hey, if y'all have a question for Brother Qonquer, man, I put a link in there. Or if y'all just have a question or a statement, period, if y'all want to come in for a few minutes to give us a conversation, I'll put the link in the chat. I think I agree with everything you said, bro. I think that one thing about the God that we're taught as opposed to the God that we find, I think that one of the main barriers to even finding that real truth, that real God is understand. Because I believe the church teaches us that God is outside of us. So I think that most people spend their whole lives looking in the distance or looking to the heavens for something that's a part of them. There's something that's all around them. There's something that's within them. And it's almost, and this is just my personal opinion, it's almost like when you say, okay, God is away from us, and then when you say that there's only one way to get through God, and it's through his son. Oh, and his son lived a long time ago, and this is the story of him. It's almost like an entity monopolizes truth, and has people on a hamster wheel their whole life chasing something that they're a part of. So for me, the transition went from me searching for God to me just stopping and absorbing God and understanding he was a part of me. That was the awakening for me. And again, that kind of makes it hard. That kind of makes it hard for me to even go to certain establishment where they're telling them, hey, God is, like you said, you'll see him in the afterlife. It's like, bro, like you're gonna have them running sprints their whole life searching for something that's looking for them, that's a part of them, man. Yeah, Miss Roget, Miss Rowe, that's my sister Rowe. Miss Rowe said yes instead of going inside. Facts, man. Facts, man. Brother Roger said, seek and you shall find. What do you say? Tay T said, God is the source, living out this experience, each one of us separately. The only way for God to identify itself is through our life experience. Interesting, man. Interesting. So brother, when you talk about and I know you speak heavy on this, two masters. Elaborate on the two masters, man.
Brother, we got natural masters, we got spiritual masters. And we're taught about the natural external masters. We're taught about, and they're all important. We're taught about, your weight. We're taught about your drinking. We're taught about your smoking, and you can't do that and serve God. Yeah, that's debatable, but I won't even go there because I'm unmovable. I'm groomed by God, so it is what it is, brother. I don't care what nobody think. I don't care what they feel when it comes to that. I care what I know. And the two masters for me is, most of the time, all of us as professionals, I don't care who you are, you'll beat yourself to get to a stage in this world to be successful. Well, at some point we've all mastered ourselves. We come to a point where we master ourselves. But when do we take that masterpiece and give it over to the master? And that's what that means, serving two masters. After you're going through experiences in life, after you begin to fix some things in your life and you continue to move forward and fixing everything in your life, and you feel at your greatest point, You know, when do you feel like that's feasible to give to the master? But once you give that masterpiece to the master gonna do whatever he want to do with it.
What does that look like? How does one
that's why
give?
you can't serve two masters. The two masters are one being yourself and the other being God. You got to give self to God.
Facts.
That's the two masters.
What does that transition look like in the physical? Like if a person, and I get what you're saying, if a person is living in filth and they're living for the things in this life and they accumulate them, what does that look like, or what steps does a person take? What processes are there from them to go to that, to living for God?
It's a very simple process, but it's too complex for most. I've written that in my first book that I'm going to get published, and it's not for. I mean, it's only what I did to get to it. It talks about how I had to correct myself to get to that version of God that I'm satisfied with, because what I presented and what I've experienced, I feel His pleasure. I can't worry about what man feel, but I feel His joy. I feel His peace. You know, I feel His sincerity. I feel His love. I feel His protection. I feel His guidance. I feel His voice. I hear Him. I can see Him clear as day. I know it sounds strange for a lot of people, but it's real. And because of what I've experienced, I'm unmovable. I'm unmovable with what I know and how I can articulate it. I'm unmovable.
I love it, man. What the screaming inner man? I know you. I was reading, and I was going through your Instagram, because you always post some some heavy comments, man. And you mentioned the screaming inner man. Elaborate on the screaming inner man for me, brother.
It's a quote that's in one of the chapters of my book, and it says the inner man screams for excitement. The inner man receives excitement. The excitement soothes the inner man, and the inner man forgets himself. Now that's twofold. For me, I had to forget my old self and fall back in love with God. That's my excitement. That's what soothes me. To someone else, they could lose themselves in women, they could lose themselves in gambling, they could lose themselves in drinking, whatever that is. But you got to find that inner man, and you got to find out what excites that inner man. And what excites me is that I'm going to live my life the way that I want to live my life, but it's going to be based on biblical principles, and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it, but it feels good. It's a refreshing feeling that only someone who's experienced would definitely understand. No one else would understand.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, brother, is I think it's exactly what a lot of men are going through now. Like I talk about when I say that, like that transition is happening, like it's like if a man is going to ever move and act and believe and stand on something, like now is that time. And I think once what summons a man to get to that point is, even though if his life is going grand, he starts to see those things for what they are. He starts to see, and I always say, man, and I never want anybody to get my message wrong, that I think things are bad or having a woman is bad and drinking it. Those things are just those things. But I think at some point, like right now, a man starts looking at those things and understanding that there's more if he taps into that other side. And I believe that's the struggle. Kind of like going to the was it the rich young ruler when he was when the messenger said, "Hey, leave all that behind and come with us." It's not necessarily that he wanted him to leave behind. He wanted to just check his hierarchy. He wanted to check his priorities. You know what I'm saying? Well, and I think a lot of men struggle with that. Say, you know what? I can just feel more fulfillment on this other side. But man, I don't want to leave this world and this ego and all this stuff, man. So I think it's a struggle. I know in Islam, that's what they call jihad, man. The struggle with self, man. The struggle of leaving that behind. And to be honest, it's not necessarily leaving things behind. It's just disassociating your power in those things, man. I'm gonna give a shout out to brother.
How you know that? I said, how you know that God definitely does have His hands on you, is because no matter what you go through, you always, you know, you can feel His presence. And there are things that you know you don't even deserve, that you get anyway. And I realized at some point, after amassing a bunch of things I could be, material things, that I ended up selling off stuff because I was dissatisfied. Then I would buy it again in abundance and sell it off, and buy it again and sell it off. But it was something there that God was showing me, no, I'm gonna give you, you asked for it, I'm gonna give it to you, but you got to give me something back now. So what I realized is that I could never beat myself. I was buying all these things, but nobody was better at beating me but me.
Yeah.
So I stopped beating myself, man, because and then when I decided to just fully just say, okay, God, it is what it is. I walk this walk. I can't walk it with you. I got to walk it for you.
I love it.
He already, everything is predestined. He already put it in motion.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna walk it for him.
Yeah.
But I would definitely walk it, my way to the best of his ability. It's gonna be within the parameters of the book. Now that could scare people because what's in that book, people are afraid of. They are afraid of it.
I believe that, and I believe a lot of it is because they don't understand it, or they're being taught that it means a certain thing, but it's not resonating with that deepest part inside of them, man. I'm gonna give a shout out to brother Quinn Harbin real quick. Appreciate the super chat, brother. Brother Quinn Harbin says this. He says, how does one find their I am, their purpose, in order to answer the who I am and where I am going questions? Heavy. I've been intentionally trying to identify this, and I've been inching closer to my truth of truths, but it is still not concreted in yet, I feel. So the main question, brother, said, how does one find their I am, their purpose, in order to answer the who am I and where am I going? I love that question, man.
That's a deep question, but it's that could be good and bad. And the reason I say that is because trying to achieve it without experience could be detrimental. Trying to achieve too much of who I am without life experiences could give you a false sense of security. And it could cause most to run aimlessly with it and ultimately end up being their disruption. But to find out who you are, you got to go back and look at your whole entire life. You have to go back and dig deep into your whole entire life. And you got to accept some things. You have to accept it. The things that were caused by others, the things you caused, you have to accept it. And the only thing you can do at that point is ask for forgiveness, be forgiven, give it to God, and continue to live. You can't sit there and just die. They says the dead bury the dead. So I choose to live, and I choose to walk amongst the living. There's a lot of us out here that feel the same way. There's a lot of us that have been raised in churches, regardless of your religion. A lot of us have tapped in. A lot of guarantee a lot of people listening that will listen have had someone older, an elder, that spoke to them when they were a child. Now, that's also good and bad, because sometimes that elder told you a bad MFer, and you probably end up being bad all your life because they saw something in you. But when they do speak greatness, you got to have ears to hear. And I'm grateful that I could retain exactly what that older lady, I can't remember her name, but it was at a church when I was younger. So again, it does serve its purpose, but from my perspective, looking at it, if it doesn't shift with this wave, it probably won't be anymore. Because today's youth ain't buying yesteryear's message
at all.
They're not buying it, and we're not buying it. That's why we don't go. And so once that generation dies off, it's going to be painful for a building if they're not standing on what they believe in and what they know to be true from beginning to end. They have to acknowledge it. It's written in the book. You have to acknowledge these things that are true. And if they don't acknowledge it, that's going to be an Achilles heel for a building to never be resurrected ever again. So what does that do to God's people? What does that do to God's children? Now that death, based on what they read, that death is on the hands of them. So it's a correction taking place, and it has to happen.
It has to
happen. if it doesn't take place, I'm telling you, today's youth, they're done with it.
Mhm.
They're done with it. They gotta hear it. They want to modernize God. Well, they gotta modernize him, because that's the only way these kids are gonna hear it.
True. True. I like this question from Brother Harbin, because I believe it's the foundation of a man's journey. Like, because every man is taking a journey in his life. Every man is walking those desert sands. But the thing is, he's either walking those sands with purpose, or he's just whatever that word is, wonderless, whatever, without a clue. He's just roaming. He's just roaming. So I think, but when brother says, how does one find their I am, their purpose in order to answer who I am and where am I going? I think personally, brother, it takes a complete disassociation from everything you know. And that goes back to what we were saying a second ago, going back to that, you must become as a little child, I can remember, man, growing up, and this is the thing, a lot of young brothers, 19, 20, 21, it's like when I was 19, 20, man, I thought I had life figured out. I was like,
Absolutely.
I'm a man now, I'm on my own, like the way I'm moving is the correct way. Having no idea, I had no clue who I was or where I was going. I was just roaming, beating my chest. And once I understood that something was wrong and had that brief moment of separation, but I separated myself from everything, meaning every single thing I'd ever heard, every single word, every single meaning, I ran it through another processor, man. I ran it through and said, you know what? Let me redefine that. Let me re-understand that. So I think it takes a complete separation from your religion, even the things your parents, your grandparents, your aunt, uncle, at least run it back through that filter. Run back to that filter what the minister or what the imam told you. And then,
what I would say to Brother Quentin is, you're still going to have some life experiences, brother. But I don't know your current age, but I'll give you a cheat code. Go find you some wise men.
Facts.
Wise men that have gone through it, and let them be your guide. Let them be your beacon of light, brother. And not only that, listening to a man twice your age can save you half the time.
Facts. But I know for me, man, it was me. For me personally, it was me not even listening to any man. Like I had to talk. I had to form a bond with that spirit where nothing else, nothing my at the time I was married, nothing my wife told me, nothing my father or mother taught me. Like I had to disassociate from this planet and get in this space with source energy and say, you know what? Like if up is down and down is up, then that's my new truth. Like I took the most rudimentary, because even when I was getting my experience, I had a little bit of experience, trials and errors, not much at 20 something years old. But even though I was getting that experience, I still needed that communion. I still needed that covenant with that experience so I could understand that experience when I was going through it. Because even when I got that connection for the next 6-7 years, I was going through stuff, but I was still trying to juggle the fence of what I heard and saw in my past knowledge, man. It was that same struggle. But I'll say this. I agree with you, man. Without experience, you really can't, like your brother said, you really can't pour concrete around it. You really can't pour concrete around it, man, because it's almost like when somebody says, don't touch that paint, it's wet. It's like you still got to go through something and say, oh, okay, now, or that oven is hot. It's like, oh, I'm burnt. Like, oh, now I fully understand what you're saying. It's no longer theory. It's like I've had to use it and I've got burnt from it. I've tried it. So I agree.
All of it is built into finding God.
Facts.
All of it is built into finding God. That's why I say it's really no cheat code. The only cheat code to it is definitely finding someone who's wiser, older, that's coming from a perspective that want to see you to a better place than where they were.
You know what?
That's spiritually.
You know, I'm glad you said that. I want to read Brother Quinn's question. Matter of fact, let me read Brother Quinn's question. I want to come back and ask you something. You just saying something very vital, man. Brother Quinn said, I'm 27. Brother Qonquer and the Power Circle has been helping me out greatly. I'll be 28 at the end of March. What are your thoughts on the Power Circle, brother?
Let me tell you something, brother. It lives up to its name. There's power in the circle. You know, we don't always agree. We don't have to. We're men. We're men. Men. You know, we can amicably disagree and move forward. And it happens often in the circle. But we all know that we're all tapped into that source, whatever we may call it, whatever we decide to follow. We're all tapped into that source, and so you can hear light extracting from every brother that talks within the circle. I don't want to name names because if I did, I would leave somebody out, and they're all so powerful and so valuable, and you can tell definitely by how it's growing. And some younger guys and some older guys that are in there, people have had experiences, and with those experiences, that's going to help build the power circuit and make it a lot greater than what it is. But it's definitely an information piece that's a must. I honestly would challenge anybody. I don't care who you are. I would challenge anybody, specifically males, but I would challenge anybody to, like, if they can gain membership to it, they should. Probably leave your feelings and your opinions and your emotions at home, but bring an open mind and bring open ears to want to learn something different, because again, there's a lot of guys in who've gone through different experiences and have different breakthroughs at different times. And we talked about a story about the brother getting ready to walk on ice, and he was nervous. And but he had to walk out there on some unwavering faith. It was still ice, but it was really water. It was solid. And so the water didn't get ready, the water didn't begin to crack until he was getting ready to get off of it, which means he had to have the faith to walk out there to do it. All right. His was instant faith. He decided to go try it. He came back, he made it. The other brother went, purchased some land and some property, 8 years delayed. But because he had so much rapport with the gentleman, that guy could have probably tripled his price. Because that brother in the circle was an honorable man, that guy gave him an honorable wage for it. I mean, honorable price for it. And he purchased it. Even though he waited it took him 7 or 8 years. Being delayed doesn't mean denied. So just on that one call, we had two brothers really giving testimony and revelation to what they experienced, and sharing it in the power circle, gave these younger guys and anybody, including me, power within the circle. So I definitely believe, and I know without a shadow of a doubt, that the power circle should definitely grow. It's an information piece that you would never lose if you attach yourself to it. It's worth it.
Beautiful, brother. I know we're gonna take a 1 minute break, man. I want to ask you a question. And the question is, like, I hear you talk about your grandfather a lot, and I can tell y'all had a bond, man. Like I had my grandmother in my life, and my grandmother was she served as like my oracle, man. She was like, at a young age, I'm talking about 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. She was that person that was at the time forcing spirituality down my throat. And just thinking about a second, I know you're close to your grandfather, I can only imagine what that would feel like to have a grandfather, to have that male equivalent to what my grandmother was, man. So when we come back, I want to ask you what that relationship was like with your grandfather, and how is like with your grandfather, and how it's helped you become the man who you are now. Before that, man, I kind of want to speak on the power circle real quick. Brothers, if y'all interested in the power circle, man, it is a powerful thing. Brother Qonquer, we're just talking about 2 stories that brothers share every week, man. Brothers are sharing good stories, success stories, stories that we can take from. The power circle consists of a power circle meeting every Sunday, some in the morning, some in the evening, usually about 30, 40-minute lectures and just open discussion amongst highly intelligent, powerful men like ourselves. On Monday mornings, we have a Monday morning meditation. On Wednesday, we have what we call the upper room. Sometimes it's general conversation. Sometimes it's book reviews. It's just a beautiful thing, man. We incorporate one fast every quarter. And last year we had our first annual meeting, which was in Atlanta, which was amazing, man. So if you're interested in the power circle, now's a good time to join. Effective March the 1st, and a few more days, the price will be going up significantly, a significant amount. So now's the time to come in and lock that price in. So if you're interested, I put a link in the description box. Definitely check it out. We're gonna take a 1 minute break and come back and get some information on from Brother Qonquer, man, about the relationship between him and how powerful it is between him and his grandfather. 1 minute.
He gives actual quotes that you probably never even heard before. He said that Henry Ford was aware of it. All of them aware of it. This is the secret inner teachings that that Napoleon Hill was not necessarily able to give out. This is one of the things that's missing from the secret. You are actually a broadcast tower that's broadcasting energy into the universe. And you wonder why you get the results you get and the people show up in your life, because it's what you're broadcasting.
It took me the longest out, when things weren't going my way, I was like, you know what, there's something I'm not doing. And I was trying to figure out what that thing was. I would go to these books and say, you know what am I not doing? What do these people know that I don't know? What do I see people that are succeeding? Like, what do they know that I don't know? I'll be back, man. And brother Brand Max says this. He says, Qonquer, we share that in common. I had my grandparents for majority of my life. They just passed away a couple of years ago. So much knowledge was passed down. And I get that, man. I mean, I think our parents can teach us a lot, but it's something about that grandparent that has that disconnect as far as us coming directly from them, but still having that tie to us. I think they're just automatically built to just give us certain information. I had my grandmother to give me that, but I can only imagine what it would have been like to have a man on that level, across the spectrum, to be able to pour into me, man. So what was that like, man? How was the relationship between you and your grandfather poured into the man who you are now, man?
Oh, man. Let me tell you something, brother. When you surround yourself with great men that won't quit, it's a difference. Being raised with a strong man, you really can't make too many excuses in life. You can try, but he held us accountable. I remember growing up in his house and spending time over there, and just the way that he was. He's not a man of many words, but when he spoke, you knew. When he prayed, you could hear him. And to know that you've inherited his prayers is another thing. He worked his butt off. He was a farmer. He was a steel worker. He did all of it with no excuse and no formal education, not at all. And so he has an understanding of the Bible from a child like mine, but he understands it greater than anybody I've ever heard talk about the Bible. And so, as I progressed, I would always pick his brain about what, Dad, give me something to read. He's aging now, and we still have a good relationship. So I go see him as often as I can, but to spend time with him and still see that joy and just ask him for things to read, everything that I read that he tell me to read, it just open up another dimension for you, because it's much deeper. It says the prayers of a righteous man availeth much. He don't have to be right for everybody. He got to be right for God. And so because he was right for God, his prayers avail. And I'm not the only grandchild that has received it. A lot of them, probably all. As a matter of fact, I would be safe to say all of his grandkids have it.
Wow, that's heavy, man. I know I want to respect your time, man. I know we already coming up on an hour, but I do want to start asking you some questions, man, about just the awakening of people. If a person is listening to us, man, if a person is listening to the kind of content of what we're talking about, the awakening, and a person is saying to themselves, like I've been kind of on the fence, like I've been moving a certain way, and I know there's a deeper truth. I know there's supposed to be a deeper connection with me and this ultimate entity. What steps should a man or woman take to start at least working their way toward that bridge of decision, man? Like, what steps should most people take to snap out of this trance, man?
most of it is written in the book that I've written. But I will say this: you cannot be afraid of the truth.
Facts.
It's plain and simple. It doesn't matter who you are. You cannot be afraid of the truth.
And what is the ultimate truth?
The ultimate truth is, are you satisfied with who the hell you are? And I said it like that for a reason. Because sometimes we can be some hell of a men and hell of a women. Are we satisfied with that hell in us? And if we're dissatisfied, get it the hell out of us. And when you get it out of you, you replace it with something. And I decided to replace mine back with God and with the word of God. That doesn't make me perfect. It still makes me human, but it changes my walk.
Give a shout out to brother. Here's a super chat, brother King Omega Darius. Appreciate that love and support, man. Brother Street Philosopher says, I'm definitely watching this again. Most definitely, man. What's your purpose, Brother Qonquer? When you say, and when I say what's your purpose, and I ask everybody these last two questions I want to ask you, man. I ask everybody these questions. And the first one is, what's your purpose? Meaning the day, the day that God says, you know what, this is your last day on the planet. The day your brothers put you in the ground, cover you up, man, throw a few roses, say a few good words. When these brothers turn around and they're walking back toward the car, when they get home, when they're on the barbecue pit, fellowshipping, still celebrating your life, what are the things they're saying? What are the things they're talking about when it comes to Brother Qonquer, man? What is it you want to leave your brethren?
I would like to leave, I would like to leave people with the fact that you can live this life and you can live it on purpose. And I'd love to meet other people who know that they're gods, who know that they're kings, who know that they're wise men. I love to meet other women who know that they're goddesses. They know that they're queens. They know that they're that Proverbs 31 woman in its entirety, not broken up, but in its entirety. That's what I would love to do, because there's so many of us out here. We know places we're not going back to. And because we're not going back, our only way forward is to meet each other. That's how you can repair within. You can't repair without. It has nothing to do with the government. It has nothing to do with what they consider the people that are lost. It's those people right there that's stuck on that bridge. It doesn't matter whether you're a celebrity. It doesn't matter whether you're a millionaire. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your status. What matters is if you're on that bridge where you could go either way, or if you've already crossed that bridge. It has nothing to do with money. God's riches and wealth is here. Because we've seen people have millions and millions of dollars and they blow it. Because there's no God incorporated in it. God always tell you to take care of yourself first.
Facts. And my last question, man, and this is an event, other questions don't pop up, brother. My last question is, who in your life, whether still living or passed away at this point, what person in your life has had the most impact on who you are today and why?
There are many, a lot of males in my family who have all passed away. Some very important females that have passed away, my grandmother as well. But right now, my grandfather. All of our days are numbered. And when one of the posts I put on Instagram is that if you want to live to be 100 years old, if you take 100 years and you multiply it by 365, if you live to be 100, you really only lived on this earth. Unless my math is wrong, you only lived on this earth 36,500 days. If my math is wrong, then I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. That's not a lot of days to live to be 100. So what the hell are we gonna do with the days we got left? So we gotta be able to live in that dash. We have to.
I'm gonna ask you one more question, brother. We got 123 people on this live stream. If this was the last content you would have ever make in your life, if the world were to cease to exist after we got out this live stream, what would be the final words you would leave the people, man?
I wouldn't leave the words to them, but I would speak them to them. I mean, because it's the same thing that God should speak to us while we're present, not told at a funeral. You know, well done, my good and faithful servant. That is something you need to hear while you're alive. So it's a service that you do. You can't hear that when you're gone.
Beautiful words, man. Hey, when can we first tell the people where they can find you, and when can we expect the literature come out, man? I'm eagerly waiting on it, brother.
They can find me on Qonquer1 on Instagram. YouTube is still Qonquer as well. I'm still working out some technical difficulties. Now I had my head down for like since 2011 writing. I've been writing just that long, brother. Writing. You know, if I told a total number of books I've written, no one would understand it. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But the one that I have right now is done, is ready to go. Now, what I have to do is find publishing. I've had it edited twice already. But I just find publishing, and it's time to go.
So it won't be too much longer, man. We waiting on it, brother.
Appreciate it.
Won't be waiting. Brother, I appreciate you making time, man. I appreciate it being late notice. I appreciate you sharing gems with us, brother. And I know you and I will exchange so many more pieces of information, pieces of knowledge, man, going forward. I want to say thank you again for coming, man. Y'all give it up for Brother Qonquer.
Thank you too, brother.
Appreciate it, brother. And just to wrap it up, y'all, Brother Qonquer, man, is a very, very heavy brother, man. Very tapped in, brother. A brother that walks his path and stays the course. But like I was saying, man, when we first started, like now is the time. Like the world is doing a certain thing. All the information we've gathered over the years, all the information you've gathered since the world was shook up in 2020, like now is the time to stand on it, brothers. Now is the time to walk in our I am, man. So again, thank y'all for joining, brothers. Until next time, love y'all, and I'm out.